Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Robert. I'm here with the last installment for May of the independent booksellers recommendations from IndieBound or indiebound.org. It's a website that you can find your local bookseller. If you're here in the United States, you can order books directly through them. It was a big part of my experience when I had my own bookshop. I used to love the independent bookseller bestseller lists, things like that. And so I've kept up with their monthly recommendations ever since then. These videos, this is the end of my third month doing these independent recommendations, and while they are getting some views, they are clearly the videos that I do that get the fewest number of views. And so I'd kind of like to get your feedback, whether you would like to see me consider with this series the way it is each month, whether you would want me to focus specifically perhaps on books that are coming out this next week, or if you just want me to let this maybe slowly fade away and devote my time to the read-alongs and things that I'm doing. So I'm here with the last 5 books for May, and it's kind of a mixture of types of books this time. The first one is nonfiction. It's called The Feather Thief: Beauty, Obsession, and the Natural History Heist of the Century by Kirk W. Johnson. A rollicking true crime adventure and a thought-provoking exploration of the human drive to possess natural beauty. It's for readers of The Stranger in the Woods, The Lost City of Z, and The Orchid Thief. And The Orchid Thief was one of my favorite books years ago. I just absolutely adored that book. On a cool evening in 2009, after performing a concert at London's Royal Academy of Music, 20-year-old American flautist Edwin Rist boarded a train for a suburban outpost on the British Museum of Natural History. Home to one of the largest ornithological collections in the world, the Tring Museum was full of rare bird specimens whose gorgeous feathers were worth staggering amounts of money to the men who shared Edwin's obsession, the Victorian art of salmon fly tying. Once inside the museum, the champion fly tyer grabbed hundreds of bird skins, some collected 150 years earlier by a contemporary of Darwin's, Alfred Russel Wallace, who'd risked everything to gather them, and escaped into the darkness. 2 years later, Kirk Wallace Johnson was waist-high in a river in northern New Mexico when his fly fishing guide told him about the heist. He was soon consumed by the strange case of the feather thief. What would possess a person to steal dead birds? Had Edwin paid the price for his crime? What became of the missing skins? In his search for answers, Johnson was catapulted into a years-long worldwide investigation. The gripping story of a bizarre and shocking crime and one man's relentless pursuit of justice, The Feather Thief is also a fascinating exploration of obsession and man's destructive instinct to harvest the beauty of nature. So that's The Feather Thief by Kirk W. Johnson, and that came out April 24th from Viking. The second one this week is called First We Make the Beast Beautiful, a new story about anxiety by Sarah Wilson. This journey is what I do now. I bump along in fits and starts on a perpetual path to finding better ways for me and my mate, anxiety, to get around. It's everything I do. Sarah Wilson, best-selling author and entrepreneur, intrepid solver of problems, and investigator of how to live a better life, has helped over 1.2 million people across the world to quit sugar. She's also been an anxiety sufferer her whole life. In her new book, she directs her intense focus and fierce investigatory skills onto this lifetime companion of hers, looking at the triggers and treatments, the fashions and fads. She reads widely and interviews fellow sufferers, mental health experts, philosophers, and even the Dalai Lama, processing all she learns through the prism of her own experience. Sarah pulls at the thread of accepted definitions of anxiety and unravels the notion that it is a difficult, dangerous disease that must be medicated into submission. Ultimately, she reframes anxiety as a spiritual quest rather than a burdensome affliction, a state of yearning that will lead us closer to what really matters. Practical and poetic, wise and funny, this is a small book with a big heart. It will encourage the myriad sufferers of the world's most common mental illness to feel not just better about their condition, but delighted by the possibilities it offers for a richer, fuller life. So that's First We Make the Beast Beautiful by Sarah Wilson, and that came out April 24th from Day Street Books. The third one is a memoir. It's The Girl Who Smiled Beads, A Story of War and What Comes After, by Clemantine Wamariya, told to Elizabeth Wheel. A riveting story of dislocation, survival, and the power of stories to break or save us. Clemantine Wamariya was 6 years old when her mother and father began to speak in whispers, when neighbors began to disappear, and when she heard the loud, ugly sounds her brother said were thunder. In 1994, she and her 15-year-old sister Claire fled the Rwandan massacre and spent the next 6 years wandering through 7 African countries, searching for safety, perpetually hungry, imprisoned and abused, enduring and escaping refugee camps, finding unexpected kindness, witnessing inhuman cruelty. They did not know whether their parents were dead or alive. When Clementine was 12, she and her sister were granted asylum in the United States, where she embarked on another journey to excavate her past and, after years of being made to feel less than human, claim her individuality. Raw, urgent, and bracingly original, The Girl Who Smiled Beads captures the true costs and aftershocks of war, what is forever destroyed, what can be repaired, the fragility of memory, the disorientation that comes of other people seeing you only as broken, thinking you need and want to be saved. But it is about more than the brutality of war. It is about owning your experiences, about the life we create, intricately detailed, painful, beautiful, a work in progress. So that's The Girl Who Smiled Beads by Clemantine Wamariya and Elizabeth Wheel, and that came out April 24th from Crown. The fourth one is a novel called Motherhood by Sheila Heti. In Motherhood, Sheila Heti asks what is gained and what is lost when a woman becomes a mother, treating the most consequential decision of early adulthood with the candor, originality, and humor that have won Heti international acclaim and made How Should a Person Be required reading for a generation. In her late 30s, when her friends are asking when they will become mothers, the narrator of Heti's intimate and urgent novel considers whether she will do so at all. In a narrative spanning several years, casting among the influence of her peers, partner, and her duties to her forebears, she struggles to make a wise and moral choice. After seeking guidance from philosophy, her body, mysticism, and chance, she discovers her answer much closer to home. Motherhood is a courageous, keenly felt, and starkly original novel that will surely spark lively conversations about womanhood, parenthood, and about how and for whom to live. So that's Motherhood by Sheila Heti, and that came out May 1st from Henry Holt. The last one is also nonfiction. It's The Best Cook in the World, Tales from My Mama's Table by Rick Bragg. From the beloved best-selling author of All Over But the Shoutin', a delectable, rollicking food memoir, cookbook, and loving tribute to a region, a vanishing history, a family, and especially to his mother. Including 74 mouth-watering Bragg family recipes for classic Southern dishes passed down through generations. Margaret Bragg does not own a single cookbook. She measures in dabs and smidgens and tads, and you know, hon, just some. She cannot be pinned down on how long to bake cornbread. About 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the mysteries of your oven. Her notion of farm to table is a flatbed truck. But she can tell you the secrets to perfect mashed potatoes, corn pudding, red-eye gravy, pinto beans and ham bone, stewed cabbage, short ribs, chicken and dressing, biscuits, and butter rolls. Many of her recipes, recorded here for the first time, predate the Civil War, handed down skillet by skillet from one generation of Braggs to the next. In The Best Cook in the World, Rick Bragg finally preserves his heritage by telling the stories that framed his mother's cooking and education from childhood into old age. Because good food always has a good story, and a recipe, writes Bragg, is a story like anything else. So it's The Best Cook in the World, Tales from My Mama's Table by Rick Bragg, and that came out April 24th from Knopf. Okay, so there you have it, the final 5 books for the May independent bookseller recommendations. We'll start with a new 20 on June, unless there's some change to this series depending on your feedback. Please give me your honest responses on this. I am certainly willing to make a change in how I do these, or switch to something that's just about the books that are coming out the next week, whatever seems to fit the best for you all. But that's it for me. I'll see you again tomorrow with a special additional video on this channel, and I'll have more to say about that. And then Friday reads, and Sunday is our read along for the Amy Bloom collection of short stories, Come to Me. So lots to look forward to this week. Hope you like the shirt. You're going to see it one more time. Bye.